Good morning. Happy Saturday. Yeah, welcome to our meeting. Welcome to Sanford Burnham's beautiful little auditorium. They're so kind to let us use this auditorium one Saturday a month, every month except December. But one of the things we want to do is give them back the respect that they ask us for, which is no food or drink of any kind, open or closed container. So if you have coffee or something like that left over, take it outside. That'd be good. When it comes to lunchtime, we're going to serve lunch outside. Can't bring it back inside. There are some tables over here to the right. We've also, if you want to do it college style, we've got a bunch of stairs that lead into the, we can grab food, go sit down on the stairs and have a good time and talk. So I think that takes care of that one. I want to talk about something real serious, and that's humor. Yeah, see, it's working already. It's been proven time and time again that when humor is used in the learning environment, retention is elevated. So I thought I would take a little stab at it. Sounds like it worked a little bit. So, okay, so here we are in the land of AI, right? So I searched AI and I said, look, I'm going to be the facilitator at this meeting. I really want to inject some humor. Give me 5 or 10 little jokes. Some of them are a little edgy, and I thought, no, we're not going to do that. So this started off pretty mild. It's the only one we're going to have today, but if you haven't heard me up here before, I do have a little bit of fun, and I like to kind of keep things light and keep the corners of the mouth on the elevated position as opposed to downward. So let's talk about our principles. I like to brag on these folks because this organization is not a year or two old. It's very old, and we've kept the momentum going. It's takes a lot of work, takes a lot of effort on the part of volunteers. Nobody gets paid for what they do except our audiovisual team, which is a professional team that we use. And so that's the only thing that has a salary attached to it or the cost of being here. So first, Aaron Lamb. Aaron's not here today. He had some things that he had to take care of. He's been our director, serving as president for the last 6 or 7 years. Bill Manning, who's arriving a little bit late today. You can be able to talk to Bill a little bit later. He usually puts out all the library and everything like that. He handles the video editing. I got him messed up with Bill Bailey. John Gottlieb is here. He's our treasurer. John, if you just raise your hand so that way people can know who to throw things at. Not even a joke or a smile on that one, huh? Okay, I'm trying. I really am. Steve Pendergast, he's our secretary and newsletter editor. He produces the newsletters, and he does a really great job. It takes a lot of effort to do that. And he also pops in a little humor into his newsletters and tries to keep us up to date on new things that are going on. So be sure and catch that newsletter whenever he publishes them. Bill Bailey's our librarian. You'll see a whole bunch of books and articles from various authors and resources outside. Bill manages all of that. He's been helping us for a long time. And then there's you. You are, maybe 25, 30 folks here today, but actually out of 950 people who are on our email list. And so we have a lot of folks who don't even live close, but they heard about IPCSG, and they catch our meetings because they are professionally recorded, and we have a nice little library of videos that they can go to. We have a lot of people who look at our videos, so we can capture these. Next would be, let's see if I'm overlooking anybody. Oh, yeah, the one thing I wanted to do. I see we have some female members that have come with some of our guests today. Bringing our caregivers is a really important thing. So if you have a caregiver at home, knowledge is power. And if the more your caregiver knows about what we're learning, what we're undergoing, learn acronyms, stuff that's going on in our space. Whenever you go to those doctor meetings, you'll be surprised at how much it helps having that additional brain power sitting next to you who understands more about what's going on other than what you come home and tell them after you get back from your educational session or something you read, et cetera. So please bring your caregivers. As a matter of fact, one of the things that we're going to try to pull together here soon is a speaker who is devoted to caregivers. So we think there's real high value in that. Let's keep going here. Newcomers. How many folks are here that are first-time visitors today? Anybody? Excellent. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Neil, where are you? There he is. Neil Nation is our newcomer chair. He manages the information that there's a little form for you to fill out. And if you enjoyed the meeting, by the way, everything we do here is free. If you're a newcomer, you wouldn't know that unless I told you, or you kind of waited until you kind of absorbed along the way that we don't charge for anything that we do. So when we get information from you, it's so we can stay in touch with you and keep you posted on upcoming meetings or changes, et cetera. So it's for no other purposes than that. We don't sell your information to data brokers. We get enough of those. So it is entirely between this organization and you. That's the only purposes for capturing your email address so we can keep in touch with you about upcoming events. There's a profile form. You want to hand that over to Neil, who we just introduced a few moments ago. Be sure and fill out how you heard about us. That's very helpful because it helps us direct more efforts at promoting IPCSG so we can help more men. Bottom line, that's our mission. That's what we want to do. So the more we know about where our newcomers come from, we can expand that 950 to 1,200 to 2,000 someday, and that would be really cool. There's an information kit that's available. You can find it on the website under resources. The website's got a lot of information. We also put out email announcements. I think I mentioned that a few moments ago. And after the meeting, if you're new, either find Neil or find me, or find anybody. Just come up and say hi, get to know the group. And one of the reasons we want you to get comfortable with that is we don't just push out information. If that's all we were going to do, we could do that very easily and not have to come in and put up material and all that kind of stuff. We could just send you emails. But we all know that that's not going to get you the best absorption of that educational material. One of the biggest things that comes from this meeting is being in this room with other people who are going through the very same challenges and opportunities for improving our situation as you. And if you can attach yourself with one or two of those people at each one of our in-person meetings, you'll be able to learn from them as a newcomer or a newly diagnosed patient, find out what their pathway look like. Where do they find their best resources? What physicians do they use? What pathway are they on, et cetera. And today's meeting does a lot of that because we're going to have 3 speakers who are going to talk about their individual cases. And then from that, you can say, wow, I really want to talk to that guy, or I really want to talk to not that one, but this one because he's closer to my personal situation. So that's the big goal here of having an in-person meeting. Put everybody together, make it convenient, shake hands, or as the old guys in the insurance world said, press flesh, shaking hands, and get to know somebody that can turn into a mentor for you, a little bit of a help. Any questions so far? We good? Awesome. There'll be a test at 4 o'clock today. I hope everybody gets 100. We do this survey all the time, and it's got a real reason, and it's to demonstrate something for you. So we already saw that we've got about 5 people here for the first time. How many folks were recently diagnosed? Got 1? Okay, cool. Normally we have 2 or 3 at least. Now let's go. How many people have been diagnosed for at least a year? Hands in the air. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 to 4 years. Okay, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We get a nice little array. Look around the room as these hands go up so you can kind of see 5 to 10 years. That includes me. 11 to 15 years. All right, we've got a nice set of hands. And I know of at least one gentleman who is longer than 15 years. How many hands in the air for 15 years? 1, 2, 3. So if nothing else tells you that prostate cancer is not a death sentence, but rather it is an opportunity to change your lifestyle so you can be more healthy and you give your immune system better, you and your doctors, your immune system and your doctors working with you, a better chance to just protract this thing. You can go on and on and on and make your wife or your partner crazy for 15, 20, 25, 30 years or more. So don't be scared. This can go on for a long time and you have great opportunities. Medicine's changing at an incredibly rapid rate. Another survey. Let's go through this real quick. Standard treatment. So we're going to move a little bit faster, but pop your hand in the air. And I want you to look around, especially if you're a newcomer or you're on active surveillance and you're thinking that you're moving towards some kind of treatment. Look around and see who's holding their hand in the air for any of these that we're going to call out, because it might be that that's one of the people you want to get over and talk to. Active surveillance. How many folks are on active surveillance? All right, so we've got quite a few members in that category. Surgery, had surgery. Oh, that's me too. I forgot to hold my hand in the air. Radiation. Okay, we've got a lot of folks in radiation. Proton X-ray, brachytherapy, SBRT, radiation. Nice. ADT and hormone therapy. I got my hand in the air again. Chemotherapy. No takers today. Other pathways, focal, HIFU, laser, cryo, TULSA. Anything new that I didn't mention or you don't see up here? Anything new? No. Immunotherapy like Provenge, Xofigo, Pluvicto, IRE or others, focal treatments. Recurrence, how many people have had recurrence? Okay, so it happens. So there you go. There's a lot of people that have been here, they're falling in the 10 or 15 year category, and recurrence is a part of it. It can happen. Undecided on future treatments. Yeah, exactly. And that's a big reason why we show up here today. Let's keep rocking. Oh, YouTube library. This is a big deal. So what have we got? We got 15, 25 people here today. Again, the meeting is recorded. We have a YouTube channel. There it is. If you go to that page, you will see a library of all of the, I shouldn't say all, I should probably say most of the last several years' speaking events. So if you missed a meeting, or you're brand new, or you're under active surveillance, and maybe you were kind of laying out and not really coming to meetings or paying attention, but now all of a sudden life is serious again, you need to pay attention and start developing some opinions about possible pathways. Go to the YouTube channel. There's a lot of topics there. The majority are physicians that are speaking on their areas of discipline that you could benefit from. So I'd encourage you to take advantage of that. Other support that we provide you, again, I've already mentioned the website. I just got through talking about YouTube. We have these meetings that we're doing now. I've already also mentioned the newsletter. And then we also have a hotline. So if anybody stumbles across us and they're not sure who we are, what we do, et cetera, we have a hotline phone number, and we have folks who take those calls or return those phone calls. And they are there to not provide medical advice, but to say, hey, here's what IPCSG is, here's what we do, here's when we meet, here's our website resource, la, 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 and get people hooked into the process of learning and getting them moving on to making decisions that'll help them. Okay. We're rolling along pretty good. This is something I wanted to chat real quick about. We're a volunteer organization. And one of the things that was happening was Aaron, who had been serving as president for about 6 or 7 years, he was just getting burdened with too much. And so last year we were talking, and it was like, hey, man, listen, there are more people out there with skills. We can fractionalize this effort and turn it into more people that are doing smaller amounts of things. So it's a smaller amount of burden on everybody as long as we organize well, and it'll be easy. We can grow the organization, make our meetings better, make our topics better, get more interesting speakers. And so we're in the process of doing that, and we could still use some more help. So if you think you have any skills that fall into any area that we could benefit from, very soon we're going to be holding a steering committee meeting. I don't have a date for you yet, but if you think you're interested, but you don't know if you want to commit to helping a volunteer organization like our own, I would invite you in a non-committal way, attend that when it gets announced, of course, attend that meeting as an observer and see what we do, what we talk about, what the committee structure looks like, what are the topics and where are the areas that we need help. If you, at the end of that meeting, say, this is great, I want to help you guys, and I can do this, that, or the other, then great, we move forward with you. If you decide at the end it's not for you, or you don't have the time or whatever, it's okay. We appreciate you at least coming and taking a look. So keep an eye out. If you do have an interest, there's an email down at the bottom, the very last line, llambda13@yahoo.com. That's Aaron's email. Pop an email to Aaron. Just let him know that Mike talked about the need for more volunteers and you'd like to attend that steering committee meeting as an observer, and just take a look. That way he'll have you on the list, and when we put a date for that steering committee meeting, you'll be invited, and off we go. Thank you for your attention on that. This is the first time I've participated in a volunteer organization, so it's been kind of cool to sit back and kind of be casual and watch and see how it all comes together. But it's really exciting when you see a whole bunch of people who contribute these small little pointed efforts and make this whole thing come together and deliver what you see on the web and during our meetings today. Other support that we provide. If you think that going through your doctor and going through all of that is the only way you can get a PSA reading, it's not true. There are several resources, but one of them is to go to ipcsg.org, psa.info, and you'll get information from Ultra. It's $21 out of your pocket. You can get a PSA test. Promise germline DNA saliva testing if you don't know anything about your DNA and where your status is. And then we also strongly encourage you to look into another free resource, YMCA Livestrong Prostate Cancer ADT Exercise Program. If you've not been through ADT can create some fatigue. It's taking your hormones and running it down to the level of the sole of your shoe. And so we run out of energy, we have hot flashes, and it's just not a good time. I went through 6 months of ADT when I had 38 treatments of IMRT radiation about late 2018. My doctor strongly encouraged me to continue my exercise program. At the time, I was going to hot yoga about 4 nights a week, pretty aggressive. And he said, listen, if you'll keep doing that, it'll help your head. It'll help you tremendously. And if your emotions are in track, you can progress through all of this ADT period in your life much easier. And boy, was he right. There were days when I looked at my wife and said, I'm so tired, I don't want to go to yoga. His instruction was, that's the day you really need to go. Because if you feel like you're that tired, the fact that you went, the fact that you pushed through your workout, regardless of whether it's yoga or getting out for an aggressive walk or going to the gym, the fact that you push through gives you that sense of accomplishment, and that sense of accomplishment reinforces your whole emotional state. And by the time 6 months to 9 months of low testosterone from the ADT happened, I can look back and say that it was of tremendous value to me. So if you're on ADT, please look into either this program or structure your own so you've got a real nice exercise program that is a definite part of your hard calendar. That means you don't do it if you feel like it. You do it because it's on your calendar. It's hard calendar and you make it happen. Any questions about anything so far? Yes, sir.
For the Lutz strong, do you have to be on ADT to qualify to take that?
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't. Does anybody else have any other information on that?
No, you don't.
You don't? Okay.
Have a referral from your physician.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
I'm not familiar with the germline DNA saliva testing.
So, and I'm not really a good one to speak about it either. So, there's a few things that I can, here we go.
Yeah, the germline testing is a test up to 24 different germlines, all related to prostate cancer. So they'll do linear breast cancer, whole bunch of other things. Thing that's matters about it is that they don't sell your sample. Even Schafer box, they won't even score it. So this is a first-rate operation.
That's some sort of diagnostic procedure.
Yeah, you do a saliva
Right.
and you nail it in. That's it.
Right, but what is the outcome other than you?
You get a test result on 24 different germlines.
Right, and then?
And then that's the other nice part is that, and if you have a negative germ, then we will work with you and track it over time. So they're trying to learn from their testing how it takes prostate cancer.
That's it. But if they didn't eat it, it's therapeutic value. Oh, doctor.
Treatments can be recommended based on the diagnosis from the germline testing. So your physician can refer you. I was eligible for a clinical trial because of the positive results of germline. So it can be very effective in helping your physician.
So it will communicate with your physician?
They will give the results to your physician.
Either they take it or you take it to your physician. Yeah, and it's just additional information that can be helped with, like I said, diagnosis, developing future treatments. Yes, sir.
So for me, I'm in the process of getting the germline, and it's testing the DNA of yourself, whether like the BRCA would mean you have a higher risk of getting it. I've already got it. But for me, I've got 3 sons and a dad that had prostate cancer. And so this is a way of, trying to know whether I might have passed up on it. And so that will then you start custom share.
Because on the social result has no potential for other cancers.
Primarily pointed, though, their line of testing is primarily pointed at the prostate cancer side. But there's commonalities. There's, like my sister. My sister had the BRCA gene. I did not, oddly enough. Don't know how I got missed. She had breast cancer. She's never going to get prostate cancer. She better not. And boy, I don't know. Yeah. Any other questions on this slide? Okay, let's rock and roll. So what's our purpose? Our purpose at this group, and basically we like to just read this to make sure that we have everybody cleanly on board with what we're up to here. We share patient-focused experiences on becoming your own case manager through informing, networking, and caring. Now, that doesn't mean you do your own diagnoses and things like that, but we consider all of us the CEOs of our own health. All of the physicians and the laboratories, they work for you. They give you information. Ultimately, you have to make decisions. So it's a mindset that makes you a little more proactive in your care as opposed to waiting for a physician to give you directions. So the more questions you ask, et cetera, you're functioning like the CEO of your own health. We are a group of experienced participants, so everybody here has some experience, young or older, with prostate cancer, and we are not medical professionals, and any sharing by anyone in our group may not be the substitute for your own medical counsel. So again, we're a group of people who have a common theme, and we're putting us together so we can learn, and we That's it, simple as that. So don't take anything as medical advice, but information you can take to your own physician and ask their opinions about how that may or may not apply to your own case. We need your support. Vlad and John, do we have our little baskets? So we're a 501c3. We live off of donations and contributions, and if there's any grants out there that we find along the ways, these donations can be tax deductible. So I would encourage you to also check out down here in the orange, if you want to track your donations, so you can do cash or you can do a check, which you can designate as tax deductible to a 501c3. You can write that off your taxes, so that way you're being a smart donator. And then you can also find the information on our webpage at ipcsg.org. Our largest costs are the website, just hosting that, keeping it up, our filmings and the audio that gets captured, and once in a while we do mailings. The other thing that we recently started doing too is we are making contributions to the charity of the physician's choice for the physicians who come and speak to our group. So for example, here recently we had Raina McKay or Dr. Dilliger who just spoke with us. We sent them a nice thank you letter and asked them what charity they would like us to make a $500 donation to in their name. So the money gets put toward good purpose. And John and I were talking this morning, one of the things that I'm going to recommend to our steering committee is that we carve out a little portion of one of our meetings, not to turn you all into getting bored listening to accounting, but to kind of do a high-level overview of the donations that we receive and where we are, where that money goes, how it gets spent, et cetera. Since people are kind enough to make donations to keep this organization alive, it's kind of nice to know where that money's going. Thank you. Next month's meeting, someone do a little reading here because I have to read. I don't have this memorized for Dr. Lutz. This is kind of cool. We're going to talk about bugs. We're going to talk about bugs in your belly, otherwise known as gut microbiome. Dr. Lutz is going to present to us, and what he passed along to me was, he said from about the 1960s and onwards, scientists knew something was going on in the gut microbiome and its contributions to the immune system. The technology to study it properly arrived in the early 2000s and became mainstream medicine and truly woke up between 2007 and 2018. It was first in 2018 that science really understood the gut microbiome, that the gut microbiome was impossible for oncologists to ignore. We're so lucky to have Dr. Lutz speaking to us here next month in this auditorium on this very topic, so don't miss this one. So on the subject of upcoming meetings, I thought, well, if I'm talking about that one, let's tease you a little bit about some other meetings that we've come up, and actually I lined up because they're people that I invited to come speak to us this time. So naturopathic medicine is a patient-centered approach to healthcare that emphasizes prevention, natural therapies that support the body's innate ability to heal while addressing the root causes of illness. It's the other side of medicine, also known as Western medicine. So naturopathic medicine, allopathic medicine, also known as Western medicine. So in order to round out our exposure to the various schools of thought and practice related to prostate cancer case management, our August meeting will be Dr. Maura Fitzpatrick, PhD and naturopathic doctor, to talk to us about naturopathic medicine and how she applies it toward her patients. And then in September, this will be kind of a fun one. I'm a patient of UCSD, so I know a lot more about their organization than I do others. But Jody Tam spoke at the UCSD Prostate Cancer Symposium at the end of January in 2025. And she's from the pelvic health section of UCSD in the oncology side. And she and her team of about 6 or 7 people, their entire day, every day, is devoted to helping men better develop the musculature that they need in the pelvic floor so you can maintain better control over bladder control, okay? So that's really nice because it deals directly with incontinence, sexual dysfunction, et cetera. So I don't know, I was scratching my head one day thinking, oh gosh, who are we going to get for September? And I went back through the speakers at the January meeting, and boom, she popped out. I called her and she said, I'd love to come and talk to you guys. So I think this is going to be really a very good meeting for us, and one that we can probably all put together techniques that'll help us immediately, because I had a radical prostatectomy, and incontinence is something I constantly have to be mindful of, where you are, how you're squatting down when you're picking up your dog or whatever, so you don't have that little accident that you don't want to have, especially if you have on light colored pants. So yeah, we all know what that means. So I think it's going to be a real fun one, because she told me she's going to have all of us stand up and do little exercises so you can tactily feel what she's talking about when she talks about pelvic floor exercises and things like that. So I think this would be a really good one for all of us to show up. Yes, ma'am.
After childbirth, women learn how to do all that.
Absolutely. Yes, they do. Did you guys hear that? After childbirth, women learn how to do it? Yeah. My doctor didn't think it was important. I had somebody else who told me it was, and because they did, I went to work on that pelvic floor before surgery and immediately after surgery, and I was very fortunate. I didn't run into any problems. But it is a big deal, because I know it affects a lot of men, so I'm really excited about that one. Let's go to today's program. So we've got 3 speakers. All 3 are going to talk about their case. The first one is going to be Mr. Don Lutz. So Mr. Lutz, if you'll step forward to the execution chamber, I will get you lined up here. So here's our plan. Our plan is going to be, so each speaker is going to talk about 20 minutes. I'm sure there's going to be people who want to ask questions of the speaker during the meeting. I'd like to keep those to a moderate number of questions, because what I want to make sure we do is get all 3 speakers enough time to finish before lunch. And then at the end, we're going to put some handheld microphones out, and we'll have general Q&A for all 3 at the same time. Fair enough? You are on, sir.
Thank you.
All right.
Good morning, everybody. Is the microphone on? Okay, good. It's a pleasure for me to be here, and I have been a proud member of the support group for 5 or 6 years, have learned so much. I've been privileged to be at many talks and learn so much, and my talk today is in some sense a giving back to the group all the things that I have learned, and which might be of help to other people in similar situations. So a little bit about me and my background and how I came here to San Diego. So I'm 86 now. I was born in central New York, which is a tough place. The winters are unbelievably cold. The summers are hot and humid, and somehow people survive and are better for it. But they think they're on their way. It's a way of getting to paradise, because you've gone through hell. And they vie for what's called the Golden Snowball Award, which it's given to the city which has had the highest amount of snow over the period of the winter. So after 25 years in central New York, I finished graduate school, and I got my first real job in Wisconsin, where I went, and I spent a year there, and then I had to go into the Army to fulfill my ROTC obligations for a few years, and came back to Wisconsin and spent the next 22 years there. Fortunately, I had the opportunities of getting out of Wisconsin sometimes, and I spent 2 very nice years in LA on sabbatical along with other places. And so I found out what Southern California was like. And after this 22 years, my wife and I decided there was more to life than shoveling snow in the winter and cutting grass in the summer and fighting off the mosquitoes. So as far as family prostate cancer history, we had none that I know of. I had no friends who had prostate cancer, so I was totally in the dark. As far as my activities, I've been a jogger, hiker, biker, swimmer, and being in Southern California has enabled me to do these things year-round. So I'm very fortunate there. I am a retired math professor, so first at UW Milwaukee and then luckily SDSU. I am not going to talk about mathematics today. I'll show you a few graphs which could be interpreted mathematically, but we're not going to go there. And there's going to be no pop quiz at the end. So as far as insurance goes, when we arrived here, on the advice of friends and colleagues, I signed up with Kaiser. And we've been with it for 39 years now. So my current status is happily less than 0.1 PSA for the past 3 years. But there's more to the story going on. So I received my first diagnosis, well, my diagnosis in 2021. At that time, Kaiser took men a lot. I think it was a special program for men over 50 or over 55. And you got a complete screening, which lasted half a day and went over all kinds of things, but not PSA. However, there was a very, very astute physician's assistant who ended this morning-long ordeal, and easy to talk to, and the final part of his schedule was the digital rectal exam. Not my favorite thing. I had been through many of them, both in Army physicals as well as normal physicals, and I could tell something was going on because it took longer than normal. And he looked at me very seriously and he said, well, there is possibly a problem here and we're going to need to investigate it further. So he discovered this nodule and immediately prescribed that I have a PSA test. Now, I had never heard of PSA before. For all I knew, it was Pacific, South, or Southern Airlines. So I learned quickly what PSA was about. And the score came back in a letter, which said my score was about 6. Oh, I should say one of the real benefits of having these annual physicals at the time was you got a letter at the end which told you what your equivalent age was for somebody in good shape. So when you're in your later 50s and you got a letter saying you're like somebody in the early 40s, that was a real plus. Well, the letter this year was not so great. And I was assigned a urologist at Kaiser. And I went to see him, and he ordered a biopsy based on what the score was. So I was told the score was halfway in between good and bad. It could be a prediction of something not so bad or something that needed to be taken care of. So the biopsy came back and showed that there was malignancy. And I was given about 3/4 of an inch high stack of papers to read about what all my options were. There was no support group I was informed of at the time. I wish there were, but I had to do this on my own, and there were 3 decisions to make. One was a radical prostatectomy, which I referred to as cut it out. Then the second is radiation, burn it up, and hormonal therapy means put it to sleep. So after looking at all of this and the options, I came back and decided on a radical prostatectomy. And the surgery was prescribed very quickly, actually. Kaiser will move very quickly when they think there's something wrong. The pathology came out, unfortunately, with no clear margin between the malignancy and the prostate wall. So as far as I know, I was given the Gleason score of 6.5 there, which again is sort of halfway between good and bad. And I asked the urologist then, what does this mean? You know, could he give me some idea of how long I had to go? And he looked at me funnily and he said, well, maybe 2 years. And I thought this was a terrible way of putting it, and I hoped it would be long. I wanted some encouragement, and he had absolutely no encouragement. We did not communicate well at all, and I thought I had to switch. I couldn't take him anymore. So luckily, my wife had known an oncologist. She is a cancer survivor who's sitting out here. And we had a very good relationship with her oncologist. And I asked him to take me on and as a patient, so I moved from urology to oncology. And he recommended that I go on active surveillance with PSA tests every 6 months, and once a year we would get together and just talk about things, because there was nothing. My PSA was down to less than 0.1, so we just had a good time together, a little bit of chatting, and Margaret would come along some of the times. Well, this went on for the next 12 years, and then I got a wake-up call. So you'll see things are good, and then they get a little bit sketchy. Around 2012 up to 2013, he kept saying, well, it's not so bad yet. And at 3, I became nervous. And so I decided to get more active in the types of tests I wanted to have. I requested a bone scan to detect any evidence of cancer in the bones. MRIs at that point did not show up much, and I wanted increased testing of PSA. So he went along with all of this until things got serious, and the curve goes up almost exponentially. And I said, something has to be done now. Now, as a biker, we would frequently ride our bikes with a group from Mission Bay up through UCSD and up farther as far as Oceanside and back. And while we were going through UCSD, we came across radiation oncology. And that, I remembered that, and so I told my oncologist, look, I want to have a consultation in the next stage, radiation oncology. And I got a referral and went over to speak with an oncologist. And unfortunately, at that time, there was no PSMA, so there was nothing in the MRI or any other tests that indicated where the cancer was. So he suggested that it could have been somewhere in the pelvic area, and that they could do a relatively modest radiation scattering to detect and maybe kill off any of the cells. So this went on for 2 months, once a week, and at the end, I had a PSA test after 3 months, and it went down to perfectly acceptable levels, less than 0.1. And that went on, and I was very happy that somehow the targets had been found, even though there was no smoking gun, that it found something. Well, life was good again, and then there was that was the first reoccurrence, and the second reoccurrence, right here, occurred starting about July of 2021. And again, you can see a rise in the PSAs. Now I was taking them much more frequently. And again, at 3 or 4, I decided that something had to be done. So fortunately, the PSA PET scan was allowed then, and I took mine, and it came up with scattered metastasis in the pelvic area mainly, and I asked for a consult with a radiation oncologist, actually the same one, and wanted to have another dose of radiation. He said, well, there was no smoking gun. There were too many small areas. And so he and my oncologist at the time suggested going to hormonal therapy. And after doing a lot of reading about all the options, I came up with Orgovyx. And that is the yellow line that comes down as opposed to the spike, which raises the testosterone level. So for me, the Orgovyx gave me a continued reduction in testosterone, which didn't have a lot of the side effects, but all the benefits. And so that was my therapy for the past 3 years. I have endured it. I could show you, if anybody is interested in Orgovyx, I can be more, I can give you more information about it. So since 2003, late 2003, I am back to the less than 0.1. What this means is the prostate cancer is either dormant, asleep, or with luck, it could be put out of business. So the daily pills are not any problem for me. The side effects, as far as I'm concerned, are negligible and manageable. I have a new oncologist now at Kaiser. The old one retired. And so I'm with a new guy. We have a very good relationship. I talk to him every 3 months. He orders any tests that I want, including testosterone, and that shows a level of down to less than 15. So I do have low testosterone, but with a lot of continuous exercise, including biking, hiking, swimming. It has led to not a tremendous loss of muscle mass. My weight has not gained appreciably as it could, and I am really thankful to be a member of the group and learning more and more every day about all the new treatments and anything that I will have to consider in the future. So the key lessons I've learned are I was very fortunate to have an early detection by this physician's assistant who probably gave me the best digital rectal exam I ever had, the complete one. I have learned to become my own case manager and push my physicians to do things that I think that I've read about and that I think I should have. And they've been very agreeable there. Prostate cancer can be lived for 2.5 decades. I have had 2 reoccurrences. I hope that's the last one, but you never know. Physical fitness is important. I'm hoping that it also allows my immune system to act better. I really enjoy coming to talks and learning more and more. So finally, I would like to thank Mike McCary for helping me put this slide presentation together. I thank my wife, Margaret, who's sitting here, and my 2 daughters who came today to listen to me, for all the support that the family could give to me. My email message, it's the best way to contact me is by email. Although I do have a cell phone, I hardly ever answer it. So the best thing is call my wife. I could give you her number. So I would be happy to talk to anybody about my particular case and how it So thank you very much for your attention.
Do we have any questions? My question is, can you say briefly the horror stories of
the side effects of hormone therapy? You said yours were negligible and manageable. Could you say what they are? Are you comfortable with that?
Well, initially hot flashes. And that occurs actually mostly when the weather is very warm. In the cold, when I'm up skiing, I hardly get a hot flash at all. I did feel muscular weakness at first, so I go to the gym more often. I try to do weight resistance exercises with small bell bars over long periods of time. Biking helps to keep the muscles going in my legs. So, and I did gain a little weight at first. Now it forced me to maybe reduce my diet a bit. But all of this I consider as rather manageable. It doesn't bother me at all to take the pills.
Well, thank you for a very good presentation. Learned a lot, but I'm glad that Orvix has been very successful for you. The reason I say this, and I ask, was it the first line of therapy, hormone therapy, that was suggested for you?
No, but the injections that was this spike that goes up and down, and either 3 months or 6 months, and I didn't like that approach. I wanted to maintain a constant low level of testosterone rather than have it spike and come back down.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad it worked for you. The reason I even mention this is because I started with Lupulide and it worked, and I didn't like the side effects. So then I learned about Orgovix, and I asked to be switched to Orgovix, and it took a turn for the worse. So I went back on the Lupulide for several years, and that started to lose effect. And my oncologist then suggested Zytiga. And I'm now on it for a couple of years, and it's been holding my PSA down to minus 0.1. So I am happy that that's the case, even though I still feel the effects of hormonal therapy, which I don't like. So I did ask to get off of it for a while, and my oncologist reluctantly agreed, and she was right, because within a few months my PSA went up again, and I'm back on the Zytiga, which brought it down immediately. So I'm glad about that, but I'm just wondering, as you probably are wondering, how long the effects of hormonal therapy can really be effective.
I have asked and have never gotten a really good response. So I've asked speakers who have been here, I've asked my oncologists, and they're reluctant to say, because I don't think there's this, maybe the data isn't available. I don't know.
Yes,
or they've made active.
I hear you. I get the same response, and I'm satisfied with it because I'm the same age as you, and at 86, you got to take every year as a gift. Thank you.
Sir, it's just amazing the similarities between your story and what my story would be. You're maybe 2 years older. You started in Chicago. I started in Detroit. We came over here about after the same amount of years. You were a college math teacher?
Yes.
I was a high school math teacher. Okay.
Interesting.
And I also am getting treated by Kaiser now for 22 or 23 years. Okay. But I'm ending up back and forth on Xtandi. All right. Do you get treated by the doctors at Zion?
Yes,
Okay.
at Zion, in oncology there.
Okay, great. And I took a picture of what you're on now. I may ask about whether I should, because I'm
could
going
call me
back.
and- yeah.
I'm going back and forth on Xtandi. You know, it works, and then. But anyhow, hey. So thank you very much for your story. It was really good.
All right. One more quick one, and then I want to save the rest of them to the end.
Don, this is very quick. You talked about your lack of side effects on the drug. What about side effects when you were on the radiation?
Oh, there was absolutely nothing that I could detect that. So it was, I think, a very mild radiation, X-ray radiation, not proton. And so I felt nothing other than discomfort because you have to keep your bladder. So that was okay. The radiation was no problem.
Let's do one last question, and I need to move to the next speaker to make sure we have enough time for Albert, because he'll throw something at me if I don't save him enough time to talk today. Yes, sir. Yeah, go first. Oh, my bad.
I'm with Kaiser, and they discontinued PSA testing based upon the United States Preventive Services Task Force. So my prostate cancer was detected about 12 years after my last PSA test, and by that time it had metastasized. So you are fortunate that you got the PSA, the DRE, at the time that you got it.
Yeah, exactly. And I have told my oncologist several times, I said, look, you have to make the PSA available. And friends who are in their 60s, I always advise them, push your physician to get a PSA test. Don't just say no, accept their word that it's not necessary.
The thing about the PSA test, the Ulta, it's through Quest. So it's $21. Just a really good value. Yeah.
Thank you, Don. Our next guest speaker is Mr. Martin Miles, who is going to talk to us about his case. And I'll have his slides up here right now.
Give me 1 second to get this prepped. It's all you, buddy.
All right, thank you, sir. All righty. Well, you guys were unfortunate you had to see me last month, and now you got to see me again. But here I am. It's been a very short journey for me, and I've written some notes here because I'm not really a good, just no notes speaker. So I apologize when I have to read what I'm telling y'all, but feel free to interject anything you need. I was only diagnosed 18 months ago. It's been a pretty tumultuous 18 months. I know many of you have gone through a variety of things in your experiences. I had a few experiences myself in this last year and a half, but I'll go over it and you can see where I'm at. So overall, I've lived a relatively healthy life. I was in aviation most of my career, and that means additional physicals every year. That they test your hearing, and I got a PSA or a DRE almost every year. So I was really keeping track of everything. My blood pressure started to come up in 2004, and I started on a medication for that. And pretty much that was it. That was the only medicine I took for quite a while, right up until I had a high PSA. My family history up there looks kind of dismal when you just pull out the bad stuff, but the reality is I have a number of aunts and uncles that lived healthy, full lives and had no evidence of cancers that I was aware of, and then most of them lived into their 80s. So it really is just an isolated few that have had issues. I have had two cousins that related by blood that were diagnosed with cancer, and one of them did pass away from pancreatic type cancer. So not a completely clean slate, but I think I'm not like way out on the edge of having a significant amount of cancer in my family. This was me basically at the beginning. There's quite a bit of information up there that most of you are familiar with, all of those things. If you have any questions, let me know. But once I got the diagnosis, I started, going in Facebook and going into these different websites, trying to figure out what my options were. I was definitely naive when I first got my diagnosis. I didn't know anything about this group, and I kind of believe that I'm a pretty good advocate for myself. I tend to stand my ground. I'm not, let's say, I'm not intimidated by a physician. I'll ask him what I ask him, and my wife's an RN, and sometimes when we were in the room since this diagnosis, she would cringe a little bit when because I'd be pretty direct with the doctor. It's like, hey, this is my life, and I have these questions, and regardless how frivolous they might have sounded, I wanted answers. But the truth is that when you're in this situation and you're in with these physicians, you can think you're being an advocate, but you just don't know what to ask. You really don't know what you don't know. And so a lot of times I would be asking these questions just out of the blue. It really took meetings like this and getting online and reading things to understand, okay, well, these are the things that are important. These are the kinds of questions you need to be asking. So it took a while, but I eventually got there. So in the beginning, I did get, I had a biopsy. It was a very crappy experience, and it resulted in a very serious infection that became septic. And honestly, it was nearly life-threatening. It was a pretty bad infection. Ran my temperature up to 105 degrees, got taken to the hospital for a few days. It was not pleasant. My blood cultures from that infection identified an antibiotic that was supposed to do a good job of knocking the bugs down. And it was a sulfa-based antibiotic. It was, they prescribed me 2 pills twice a day, and each pill was 800 milligrams. So that was 2,800 milligrams of this antibiotic that I was taking every day. It was supposed to be for 28 days. Just a crazy thing. Actually, it was 3,200. I did my math wrong there. Got a couple math guys here too. Sorry about that. 3,200 milligrams. Yeah, it was a lot. And I didn't know any better. My wife, being an RN, she kind of glanced at it. She just said, okay, well, that's what the doctor prescribed. Take it. And so I did. Within a couple of weeks, my liver was like going downhill. I was starting to feel really bad. I went back to the hospital, and they're like, okay, well, this is just kind of an effect of your septic infection. And, they kept me overnight. They really didn't do anything. They just observed me and just said, let's keep right on going. And I'm telling you, it was getting worse and worse. I was literally turning yellow. My liver was dying. And my wife was like, dude, you are really yellow. Are you still taking the turmeric? And I'm like, I'm taking turmeric. She's like, stop that. You're turning yellow. But it was just my liver was done. So at about 18 days, I said, okay, I'm just done with this antibiotic. It's got to quit. And I'm telling you, within a couple of days, I felt significantly better. So, whether it was all that, I don't know, but it certainly helped. My liver test, my enzyme started coming back to normal. It was really a big difference. So for those of you who have or will have a biopsy, mine was transrectal. I highly recommend not having that type of biopsy. There's transperineal, which is another option. And if you are about to get a biopsy or expect to get one, I recommend that. Also, I am a patient of Dr. Lutz, and he does recommend a sedation. You would be asleep basically for the biopsy, which is probably the best way to do it because I was all over the place for mine. It's not the least painful thing. Yes, sir. Which hospital was that? Which hospital was which one? My biopsy. So I went through my. I was just being recommended. Go here. Okay, I'll do that. Go here. Go. Just following along, which you would think would work out all right. It was a physician up in Escondido, a urologist, and he only did biopsies once a month, and he had an assistant come in and help him, and so that didn't work out. That after those kinds of experiences, I started going to UCSD and a national cancer certification network, whatever it is, NCCN certified location. And I'm glad I did. You learn there's definitely a difference. So let's see here. Did I go back? One more time. All right, thanks. All right, so here's my PSA. It did hit 9.9, but that was right in the middle of my infection, so that has an effect, and you just kind of ignore that particular one. But then following that, it was at 7, and I'm like, okay, well, that's getting up there. I'd already talked to a few urologists and radiation oncologists, and I was kind of looking around, trying to find information. It's not the easiest thing to do. I was getting frustrated by the fact that it seemed like I was getting the same options. And if you went to a radiation oncologist, he would say, well, I recommend radiation, or go do whatever you want. And I go to a surgical oncologist, and he would say, well, I recommend surgery, but, do whatever you think's best. And I didn't know what's best. You just don't know. It's hard to say what the right
path is. And ultimately, I selected radiation. Let's see. So by around May, I had personally met or through Zoom calls with physicians from Palomar Health up in Escondido, UCSD here, USC, MD Anderson in Texas. You know, I'm just trying to ask as many questions as I can. Again, I really don't know all the right questions to ask, but I'm just trying to get information. This group still wasn't on my radar so much. I was just starting to show up here. I had looked at alternate treatments, and most of those are in Mexico, some are in Germany, some are in Canada. And, you know, they're a little sketchy. It's hard to understand. They obviously don't give you any guarantees. And to be honest, the least expensive one was one down here in basically Tijuana that started at $35,000 for a couple of week treatment. There was another one that was also in Mexico that was $110,000 for a 4-week treatment. And I didn't have that kind of money. I mean, that's a lot of money to come up with. This is no insurance. It's all cash. So that just wasn't in my radar. You know, it wasn't happening. Still frustrated. So what bothered me the most was when you start reading about this disease and the different treatments, people say things like, oh, there's so many advancements. There's all these things that have changed. It's gotten so much better. But, you know, my uncle had prostate cancer, as I noted. He started 25 years ago. They offered him radiation or surgery. And I'm getting offered radiation or surgery. It's like, come on. That doesn't sound like advancement. That sounds like the same old thing. Now, granted, they're better. I mean, obviously the surgery is better and the radiation treatments are significantly improved. But in my brain, I'm just thinking, okay, these aren't other things. These are the same things. But I couldn't stop. I mean, you know, you got to do something. You can't just stand by and watch. So radiation it was. I was assigned 20 rounds of IMRT at UCSD. And the interesting thing about IMRT and what I didn't even know at the time, and it wasn't until I was almost done with my treatments that I found this out, but you know, we all end up with about the same number of a thing they call gray, units of gray. No idea what it is, but it's something to do with your radiation exposure. So if you get, like I got 20 treatments, then they were roughly 3 gray each. If you get 10 treatments, they're probably going to be, 6 gray each. If you get 5 treatments, so anyways, the bottom line is you're going to end up with, you know, maybe 60, 70 gray at the end, whether you get them compressed or even spread out over 60 treatments, you're going to get the end result is the same. So, you know, I kind of digress there a little bit, but that was an education for me. I had no idea. He just said 20 treatments. I'm like, okay, that's, you know, you're the doc. You tell me what's right. I finally found a naturopathic physician that would work with me. And it took a while, and I had already kind of gotten into this process here, but I wanted to know what other things I could do. Well, one of the things that I could do is have an IV vitamin C infusion at roughly the same time as my radiation treatments. The idea being that it increases the oxygen level of your blood, and when you're getting a radiation treatment, oxygen is what helps to kill the cancer cells. So if you have a higher oxygen level, more likely to kill the cancer. Now, my criteria was, when I was doing all this crazy stuff, is will this treatment
hurt me? Is it going to have any kind of long-lasting damage? I mean, if I have to be uncomfortable for a few minutes or a few days, that's fine, but is it going to have a long-term detrimental effect? If the answer was no, then that's the first step. The second step, is there any evidence that it might help? You know, maybe there's a little bit of anecdotal evidence. Maybe there's a pretty healthy clinical evidence. But if there was some evidence, that was good enough for me. So it was a little bit expensive, but I did have those IV vitamin C infusions. And I also had heard about hyperthermia, which is another way of increasing the blood flow into the area where you have hyperthermia. So the hyperthermia unit was focused on my prostate, and I would undergo that somewhat uncomfortable, but only about, a 45-minute long session in order to increase the blood flow. Now, my plan was to get the IV vitamin C in the morning. That was in Encinitas. Get the hyperthermia treatment following that. That was up in Irvine. And then get my radiation treatment after that, which was over here at UCSD. So logistically doable, a little bit of driving involved, but I could work it out. Unfortunately, trying to get all these physicians and all these things to align is not possible. I think I wrote down here that I had about maybe 6 where all the stars aligned, where I could do boom, 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 boom. Outside of that, it was one or the other. Of course, the radiation treatments were every Monday through Friday, so those happened somewhat regularly. But I tried it. I did my best to make that happen, thinking I was helping myself. The reality is that, who knows? It's nothing you can. There's nothing you can assess today to tell whether or not that helped. In 10 years, maybe, or 5 to 10 years, if I did better than maybe the average person, then maybe it did help. So that's what I did. That was my decision, and I'm glad I did it. It was just a lot of work. So we had quite a few questions about ADT earlier. I'll give you my spin on it. So those of you out there who have had or are on any type of androgen deprivation therapy, my heart goes out to you. It is not a walk in the park. There's obviously a very wide spectrum. I've read articles, people that talk about it, that have been on it for years, and they are, they try to stay super active and do their workouts and that kind of thing, and they seem to have minimal side effects from being on it. Not this guy. That stuff knocked me in the dirt, and it was extremely challenging for me. The hot flashes, those sucked. Those, could probably be manageable. The brain fog, what the heck is that? I mean, some of the most simplest things that I would be able to recall before ADT, they were just not even there. It was weird. It was like having dementia. It was not fun. Weight gain, I put on an easy 15 pounds in the 3 months that I was on ADT. And honestly, it's taken, so right now I'm at about 212. I had gone up to 225, and I was only just starting to barely get my weight back down. This was months after I stopped taking. I was on Orgovics. It's on there somewhere. It was months before I even started to see any weight loss. And then finally, my wife said, let's get on a GLP-1. And I'm like, heck yeah, sign me up. So that's helped a little bit. In the last 3 weeks, I've been able to lose about 1 pound a week. So that's been great. But honestly, man, I'm telling you, that ADT, whew. More on ADT. So I did get the Artera. If anybody's familiar with Artera, it's a test you can take. It sort of identifies whether ADT is going to be useful for you or not. My Artera score was low. So, and this was all before I even got started. But, ADT was recommended. They said it's a good thing to do along with your radiation. So I'm like, okay, sign me up. But my Artera score was low. And then I was watching some more videos by physicians. You know, these are recognized physicians. And I think we're trying to get one of them to come here. And his comments were, look, you know, there's a reason men have testosterone. And if you're doing something to eliminate your testosterone, you're doing something, you know, that your body is not used to. And so one of the things he said, and I'm not, you know, trying to discourage anybody here, not a doctor. He said that some of the side effects can be long lasting. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, what does he mean by long lasting? And he means like forever. And I was like, okay, well, that's enough information for me. It wasn't supposed to help me much anyways. I'm a month past my last radiation treatment or so. So that's it, I'm done, I stopped. I only stopped a couple of months ahead of when I was supposed to stop. I think I did 3 months and I was supposed to get 6, so I did half of it. But it doesn't go away right away. You would think you gotta take this pill every day. So that means that when you stop taking the pill, it stops working. Incorrect. Months of hot flashes, side effects, following my stopping of the pills. So, not here to say ADT is good or bad. It's bad for me. Yeah, that was it. So, you know, and I apologize if I sound cynical. You know, I am a little bit cynical about how all this played out for me. You know, none of us are happy with having this diagnosis. You try to make the best of it. But yeah, it's not been an easy road for me. So here we are. Not doing terrible at the moment. I did have up on the slide there a minute ago this book. This is Jane McClellan's How to Kill Cancer and Then Kill It with oh shit, this is the older version. Oh yeah, there it is. New research on ferroptosis. So this I got into almost a year ago, and it's pretty amazing. The reality is that, you know, it's something that literally saved her life. She was a patient in the NHS system over in the UK. And, you know, I don't find that system from what she's describing. My wife's from the UK. She's got family that, you know, that deal with NHS all the time. It's not that dissimilar from what we have to put up with, you know. I mean, granted, it's free, but a lot of people over there go to private doctors outside of NHS because they just don't want to wait 6 months for this test or whatever. And we might do the same thing, you know. We might have to kind of skirt things to try to make something happen right away, as opposed to waiting for your insurance to approve it, whatever. So I have a little bit of a problem with how things are decided for each individual. And I'm kind of going out on a limb here a little bit, but you know, if anybody's familiar with what they call CMS, the Centers for Medicare and Medicare Services, ultimately, you know, this national program is what's deciding the treatment that you're going to get, and they decide it because that's the treatment that the doctor is going to get paid for. So if you have an idea about something that CMS doesn't cover, in other words, Medicare wouldn't normally cover it, or Medicaid, then you present that to your doctor, they're just gonna say, I don't know, you know, you can look into it, it's not something I'm familiar with. That was part of the frustration for me from the get-go, was not getting any kind of, you know, alternative or integrative information. The only thing any of my physicians told me that would be beneficial and I mean my immediate physicians that I've seen here in town, was exercise. And I agree. You know, exercise is key. It absolutely is beneficial, and walking is great, but actual strengthening type exercises are supposed to be one of the best things you can do. So I'm good with that. Nothing wrong with that. Lastly here, Jane's book, along with a few other books, have me on a couple dozen supplements. That's every day. And I think I probably spend $300-400 a month on those supplements. It takes me about an hour once a week to do my little pill packs, get a week's worth of pills, and it's a pain, but I do it. Maybe another hour a month worth of getting back online and ordering things that I'm running low on. I think that we're all familiar with how terrible this disease is. We're also familiar with how terrible the side effects of the treatments are. And that's the other challenge that I have, is that so many of the treatments have such detrimental side effects that it kind of, makes you, makes me literally think, okay, well, that side effect is so unacceptable, I'd rather have cancer. And, I don't know how accurate that is. I'll probably change my mind, on that feeling. But today, that's how I feel. Some of these side effects, either from treatment or from the cancer itself, are pretty debilitating. Not looking forward to any of that. So lastly, the one thing that I did try and do is if you go in and you do searches, web searches, whatever, and say, okay, what kind of alternative or even integrative treatments are beneficial for prostate cancer, you really don't see much. You don't see a lot of things out there that jump out and say, okay, this is beneficial or that's beneficial. It's just, it's really a matter of having to do your own research, and so much of what you see and a lot of what you experience is just anecdotal. It's not clinically proven. Maybe it's going to help, maybe it isn't. But all I can say is, to me, it's worth it to try these alternatives. It's worth it to add these into my regimen. Maybe it'll help me. I'm 66 this year. I'm hoping to, get another 15, 20 years out of this life, and I want them to be healthy years. So I throw all this stuff in. Maybe it'll help. Maybe it won't. I'll let you know in about 10 years. And that's it. By the way, I'm going to put this book in the library over there, and if he wants to check it out, it'll be available for you.
One, maybe two questions, and then I want to move to our next speaker to make sure we have enough time before lunch. So, first question.
Hi, I'm Dave Samudio, coming up from the South Bay. I can definitely relate to you as far as choices and what you have and what the doctors tell you. Because for me, it was 3 choices. It was wait and see radiation, and prostatectomy. Right. And that was it. And they tell you nothing else beyond that, no. which is sad, that happens when there's all these treatments that are available out there that can help you out. Then there needs to be changes in that. I go to Capitol Hill every year in February for the Prostate Cancer Summit. Oh, and nice. We're there to make sure that they're passing bills and they're getting appropriations, for the military, for the African American community, the 1 in 6, and make sure that these things are going to happen. We're a Class C cancer, prostate cancer. Women's breast cancer is Class A. They get billions and billions of dollars more than the men, to do research and all the things out there. And we need to change that. We're a Class A. We're a Class A cancer, and they need to put us at that, that class.
All right. Thank you for that.
Hey, Martin, thanks for the presentation and thanks for the insights into, your research into alternatives and things like that. Question I had for you, did you get a Decipher score from your biopsy and did it tell you whether ADT was, a positive or a negative path to take, however they rate that?
So my Decipher, I believe, was a 7, around a 7. I remember it was like a 6.7 or a 7.4 or something like that. But I did not get advised whether or not that was, whether ADT would be useful for that or not. It was kind of like a blanket, ADT is useful. The Artera, like I said, did indicate that ADT would not be beneficial for me.
Okay.
As beneficial.
Thanks.
Sure.
Anybody else? One last one? Anybody? Here we go.
Thanks for your presentation. That was very helpful.
All right, you're welcome.
Your guidance on seek truly independent second opinions, do you have any experience with doing that, or is that in hindsight, that's what you wish you could have done? So, I've just been diagnosed and I have, I spoke with a urologic surgeon, a radiation oncologist, and a medical oncologist. But as you said, all within the same institution.
Right.
And are there ways to go outside of that to get that truly independent second opinion?
So a naturopathic physician, a naturopathic doctor is probably going to be the only avenue you're going to find. And coincidentally, we have one coming in 2 months, right? So, which is a long time in our world. But yeah, that's I ended up seeing one, and then he was having difficulty with my scheduling, so I went to another one. Ironically, those two are in Encinitas, and the one that's coming in 2 months is in Encinitas. Something about Encinitas and naturopath, I don't know, but that's where they're at. So yeah, a naturopathic physician will help guide you on some of these alternative / integrative. A very defining line between those two. Alternative meaning that you're not doing conventional, you're not doing allopathic, conventional medicine, versus an integrative, which means you're going to combine them. You're going to go down both paths simultaneously, which is what I did. I think there was one more question real quick.
Y'all from back here, insurance.
That's exactly what we were going to go to, yeah.
Stuff like that. Did you have any issues?
Yeah, so you will find that the naturopaths will, so I was able to get the naturopaths to assign me or prescribe for me off-label medications. My insurance covered some of them. Outside of that, you will have no insurance coverage through naturopaths. It's very unfortunate, but there's honestly, maybe it's possible. I didn't try, but they all work on a cash basis, and it's not crazy, but it's not cheap, and that's the unfortunate situation we're in. That leads back to that whole CMS thing, where if it's not covered under Medicare, it's not covered, and you just got to pay out of pocket. It's not, like I said, it's not terrible, but that's how it worked for me. Insurance, of course, covers ridiculous costs for everything, that as long as it follows that standard of care.
So 2 quick things on your question. Insurance, because you brought it up. Insurance is what we all rely on to keep us from losing the wealth we tried to accumulate over time, right? So we really try to stick within what is covered by insurance when we select our coverage. But that doesn't mean that you can't say, okay, if I want a second opinion or a third opinion, if your insurance carrier says, well, our policy with you doesn't cover that, so you can either go to this institution or it comes out of your pocket. Here's where you have to make a value decision. Is the information that you anticipate receiving from a second opinion going to outweigh the $300, $400, maybe $500 out of your pocket for that second opinion? In my case, I thought, well, let's see, my life, $500, my life, $500, $400. I interviewed 3 surgeons before I selected one to do my radical prostatectomy, because they had one who gave me one pathway, the second one I talked to gave me a different pathway, and I thought, so now I've got to pick which one's right. I'm not equipped to do that. So I went to a third, hoping I could get a tiebreaker, right? And that sounds silly, but I mean, that's what it really gets down to when you're not from the medical community or have that scientific discipline training. So you can get second opinions. If you craft it and work the system the best possible, then you can get them to cover it. Don't give up, keep plodding, keep pushing. The other thing I wanted to do is to make sure that we perceive naturopathic medicine, or and sometimes called alternative medicine, in the right way. What we all grew up with was going to see our doctor. Who was our doctor trained by? He was trained by money that was funded by Big Pharma. I'm not taking a political position where I'm saying Big Pharma is bad. That's not what I mean. But that's where the money comes from. It's a business. Big Pharma spends tons of money training physicians on how to save lives. They don't train physicians on nutrition. I've talked to 3 of my own physicians, and they had an hour of nutrition training. Go to a naturopathic physician, and their entire being is about using methods that enhance your own physiology's immune system to create prevention, which you don't hear your allopathic or Western medicine talk about very much. They're more target shooters. Present me a problem, I'll go kill it or sew it up or fix it, and then they're on to their next patient. I'm not taking anything away from them because that's an extremely valuable service. But they're focused on fixing something, whereas naturopath will help you repair, get the immune system in shape where it can do the battles that it's supposed to do every day. Let's face it, everybody in here who's a prostate cancer patient, if your immune system was operating the way it's supposed to, you wouldn't be in this room, right? Because you wouldn't be a prostate cancer patient. You wouldn't have developed prostate cancer. That includes me, by the way. So my personal approach is integrative, which is use the tools from Western medicine when the Western medicine tools make the most sense. Combine those with naturopathic medicine, thus the term integrative, and use those tools on a continuum, on a constant basis. Every day you get up, the right diet, the right sleep, the right exercise, and don't forget about sleep. That's where your body does repair. You know, you can do all the great things during the day, but if you're giving yourself 4 or 5 hours of sleep, or having a strange cadence to when you go to bed and when you get up, and it's different every day, there's tons of research out there that shows take care of the sleep, and the sleep will help take care of you. And then all of the other tools. And that's why we're going to have a naturopathic physician here in 2 months to talk to us. I suggested to our steering committee to open the doorway, because we hadn't up to that point had any naturopathic medicine exposure. And so we'll get you exposed to the true physicians and not some knucklehead like me from Ireland who doesn't really know anything about anything but my own case. Our next speaker is Mr. Albert Schafer, and he's going to take a very cool approach toward talking about his case, and I'm going to let him describe that to you. You're on, sir.
All right. Albert Schafer, cancer survivor, about 8 years now. Hormonal therapy, proton radiation. I would like everybody to stand up, please. Up, everybody up. I put one hand on your chest, one on your belly, and I want you to breathe normally. Breathe normally. Okay. How many people here are finding that the hand on their chest is moving more than the hand on their belly? How many was your belly that's moving more? Okay. So let's keep standing. So upper chest breathing is stress breathing. That means your body is producing adrenalines, that and noradrenalines and cortisols, which are supposed to get you through like an emergency, but it's not something you want to do on a regular basis. Belly breathing is relaxation breathing. Changes your oxygen blood levels, okay, and it helps your gut and your brain to produce those hormones that help you to focus and to make better decisions. Now, there are different ways people respond when they're under stress, and one of the ways is that they become very mean. Get the speaker. They get very mean. They get very aggressive. They become like sharks. And I would now like our sharks to self-identify by sitting down, but everybody else remains standing.
How do we know for sure?
If you become mean and aggressive, okay? Now look at the people who sat down. You do not want to give these people stress. They will come back and bite you. Now, another way that people respond when they're under stress is they become very agitated. Well, don't everybody sit down. If you're not a shark, don't sit down. Please stand up, because we got some more to do. Okay, so one of the other ways that people respond when under stress, they become very anxious, very excitable. They're all over the place. They're you maybe get maybe 3 hours a night of sleep. These are rabbits. So if you're a rabbit, you can sit down. And now another way that people respond when under stress, they withdraw, they isolate, they go into their shells. These are our turtles. So if you're a turtle, please sit down. Okay, and actually, we respond to stress in all three of these different ways, but we have one particular way that we respond more than others. Now, the reason it's important to know how you respond to stress and how your partner responds to stress is that the way they interpret your reaction. So, us men were kind of like fixers, and so I would make the mistake when my wife, who was a shark, I would try to fix it, and she would just escalate. I learned not to do that. Okay, but I'm a turtle, and so when she sees me, she thinks I'm mad at her, and I had to tell her, I may be mad, but I'm not mad at you. It's just the way I'm responding to stress. So by knowing this, that really kind of helps us to mitigate our reaction, our responses to each other. Okay, so I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I've had a lot of experience with cancer in my own family. When I was 14, my mom died of Hodgkin's lymphoma. Then my early 20s, my father died of lung cancer. Then in my mid-20s, my sister died of acute myelocytic leukemia. In 2000, my wife came down with chronic myelogenous leukemia. And then we had a couple cats die from leukemia. For 25 years, I ran the all blood cancer patient support group for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Had one participant said, "Al, you're just bad luck." And I became I'm a prostate cancer survivor. My wife survived. My other family members didn't, unfortunately. So I've got a lot of experience that I really want to share with you. And both as a patient and as a caregiver. So I'm gonna kind of help you find some clarity in dealing with what we're with prostate cancer, and help caregivers understand things that they can do that will be helpful for not only their patient but for themselves as well. And one of the things I want to mention is we're going from caregiver to care partner, because that redefines the relationship in a healthier way. We've had caregivers who stroked out before the patient died of cancer. So caregiver health and stress is also very critical. You've heard about the war on cancer. The problem with that is that the cancer did not intentionally want to attack you. It's accident. It's something went wrong with your immune system. It's something that went wrong with the reproduction of the cells. Okay, and an average life or healthy person, we all develop 6 cancer cells a day, but our immune system walks it out. So a big part of surviving cancer it again goes back to having a good, healthy immune system. If you can give up your anger and your resentment, not only to the cancer, but to other people in your life, okay, this is going to reduce that adrenaline, those noradrenalines and those cortisols that tax your body. So what happens is your organs and your cells get the blood flow that they need to function better. And sometimes when we find out something traumatic, like we just found out we had a cancer diagnosis, it's a shock. It's really natural for us to have a shock like that, okay? And so this is why it's really important to have other people around with us when we're getting the diagnosis and stuff. When we can take the time to let that reaction rise and fall, not hold on to it. So when we get stuck in anger, we kind of hold on to it. And resentment, we hang on to it. We let it rise and fall. This allows the other hormones to come into play, the other emotional responses to come into play. Okay, it affects the whole family. Okay, and it affects caregivers differently than it affects patients. Because the patient, if you're a patient, you want to think about, okay, how do I get cured? How do I get rid of this? How do I get back to having a quality of life? For the care partners, the caregivers, it's like this loss. The loss is your health. And the loss is the potential loss of you being in their life and your ability to function. And the loss in the change in the relationship. There's a tendency when we're under a lot of stress to isolate, to withdraw, go into our, go into our shell. Circle the wagons. Okay, we want to resist doing that. We want to engage in not letting ourselves, become paralyzed and immobilized by the fact that we have a cancer or that our family member has a cancer. So you're going to have a lot of fearful thoughts. It's just natural. It's average to have fearful thoughts. But you can't not think. I mean, I had some clients that say they don't think, and by their behavior, it looks like they haven't been thinking, but we all think. And but what we can do is we have control over two things. We have control over our muscles and our thoughts. And and the way we can control our thoughts is to focus on secure and realistic thoughts. And this is like a mental habit that I found that I developed over the years dealing with all this stuff. By focusing on the possibility of success over the probability of failure. When you're focusing on the possibility of success, you're no longer thinking about all those negative thoughts that can easily derail us. And as a result of that, it's amazing how successful I've been in so many different areas of my life, not just with my own health, but in business and relationships and families. Now, I've heard a lot about, I got to make a decision. A, B, C, D, what do I do? And if it's a small decision, it's easy to make a decision. If it's like chocolate, strawberry, vanilla ice cream, it doesn't matter what you pick, because whatever you don't pick, is inconsequential. But if you raise the ante, in other words, the bigger the decision, the bigger the potential of unwanted consequences to that decision. Okay, and there's a tendency to go into that paralysis, to become scared, to go into anxiety, to go into like procrastination. And there's different directions you can take with that. One of them is you can self-medicate. There's so many different ways of self-medicating. And initially, it's not so bad. But it's when it becomes chronic, that's when the self-medicating techniques become toxic. A healthier way to go is to make a decision and realize there's no right or wrong to the decision. The only thing wrong is not making a decision. You make a decision, you need to give yourself some acknowledgement, some self-appreciation for making that decision, and accept the consequences of that decision. So if it gets you something you want, great. If it doesn't, then it's a learning experience. You need to know you need to do something else. But this moves you forward. This keeps you unstuck. We've said, you're the CEO of your healthcare. Social workers, nurses, doctors, oncologists, we're subject matter experts. Our job is to give you the information you need so that you can make the best decision for yourself. And some people, they want to just trust their doctors. That's fine. Some people like a lot of information. That's okay too. You need to be able to communicate that with your healthcare providers. The other thing is, something that really occurs quite a bit is people around us want to help, but they really don't know what to do to help. So they do the next best thing. They give advice. What we want to do is we want to listen, because what we're listening for is that they care. Now, sometimes the advice is good, sometimes it's not so good. Take it with a grain of salt. But it's always helpful, and to know that they cared and not weigh it so much on the advice. Because the opposite of caring is not hate, it's indifference. Okay? That's going to gain you a little bit more strength, a little more resilience. Okay, so when I found out I had prostate cancer, and I had a lot of experience with support groups save lives. And support groups tell you things that your doctor, your nurses, your social workers don't know because that's not their field. And so when I found out I had prostate cancer, I was just getting ready to be hired at UCSD at the Neuropsych Center. And the support group told me about what kind of accommodations I could ask from the Proton Radiation Center and what kind of accommodations I could ask at work. So I had my radiation schedule at the end of the day. And I went in a little bit early at work, and they knew that I needed to leave at a certain time every day. And so I was able to put in a full day's work, make a really big difference at the Neuropsych Center, and get my treatment done. And one of the ways that, at the Neuropsych Center, the way I could tell the difference between the patients and the staff was that the patients recovered and left. So when I recovered, I left. Yeah, so I kept working, kept my mind off of those fearful thoughts about the cancer. Now, it's an interesting thing, when you go to bed at night and all of a sudden you have all those racing thoughts. This is really average to have happen. Because when you're working, it's not thinking about those fearful thoughts. You're thinking on doing something proactive, something productive. And so there are different approaches, and sleep is really critical. There's both, and not just sleep, but with anxiety, with depression, with temper. There are two different, there's the medication approach, because sometimes you need medication to calm the mind down so that you can engage in the behavioral approach. And the behavioral approach, it can not only reduce the need for medication, it could eliminate it altogether. And the other advantage is once you've learned it, you know it for the rest of your life. There's no side effects of the behavioral approach. And for sleep, there's a number of different great behavioral approaches. There's distraction, there's a meditation type of technique, things that don't involve medication at all, that are healthy. The other thing is staying connected to your community. I'm religious. I go to temple regularly. I get a great deal of support from those people. Anything aerobic you can do gets that oxygen into your bloodstream. Okay, and I sing in a choir, and Actually, you can see me on KPBS's holiday special. And so I just do it because I love singing. These performances, you know, just unexpected accomplishments. But anything aerobic, running, working out, walking, you know, these are all aerobic things. And if you move your muscles, you know, you find yourself, you know, your brain rallying, moving your muscles can change your mood in a healthy way. So a cancer diagnosis is traumatic. And a lot of people, you know, your friends and family and stuff, they kind of want to know stuff. Unfortunately, sometimes this can re-traumatize you. Okay, you don't need to keep re-traumatizing yourself. You can have a family member, a friend, you know, be the one that they their go-to to talk about what's going on with your treatment. You don't really only want to talk to the people who are instrumental in helping you along your path. If they're not helping you, they really don't need to know. They may be interested, but they don't need to know. And you don't need to, mostly you don't need to re-traumatize yourself. You don't need to waste your time and energy explaining something over and over again to other people. Again, as I mentioned before, combination of medication and counseling. Together, they can really make a difference. So if you're having some anxiety, you can go to your primary care physician. They can prescribe things for you. And ask to see a counselor, ask to see a social worker. Parity, it's now covered by insurance. Okay? I do accept insurance through Headway. I take a small number of clients. So it's a new normal. You're not going to be the same. Life is no longer going to be the same, but it sometimes can free yourself up to start treating yourself better, start treating the people around you better. And what I found was like when I was like feeling empty and lonely, it wasn't, even though there were a lot of people around me, what really filled that void was my being giving, my caring to other people. You know, helping with like support groups like this really makes me feel good because I'm paying it forward. I'm doing something that's helping make a difference for other people. Enjoy being in the present. Right now, aren't we safe? Aren't we in one of the best environments in the United States, in San Diego? You know, if you're worried about cancer, we're not enjoying the day. If you're enjoying the day, you're not worried about cancer. Okay? So you got to check yourself out in the moment, especially when you're feeling a lot of anxiety. Stop, do some deep breathing. Realize you're in a safe place. Doing things that make you feel good, you know, and giving yourself permission to now do things instead of waiting. There's no longer the time to wait. Now it's now time to be proactive with, you know, what your passions in life are. So expect to feel emotional. Let those emotions rise and fall like the tide. Be proactive in your health care. Seek help. And enjoy life. Be a care partner, not a caregiver or caretaker. Okay, this kind of shifts the burden. You know, if you're a patient, don't put it all on your caregiver. Take some accountability, you know, for your own mood, for your own tension. Sometimes, you know, people will get really angry because they want to protect the people around them by pushing them away. That does not help. That does not help. But mostly, enjoy life the best you can. I never expected to be this old, so every day I wake up, it's like bonus, you know, and the other thing, and this work, we had ground rounds at Camp Pendleton Naval Hospital with this gratitude. We found that if there was a study done, and if between dinner and going to bed, if you wrote down 5 things that you were grateful for every day, that after 2 weeks was as effective as Prozac for severe depression, but it was better for mild and moderate depression. And again, like there's no side effects to that, you know. And there's a lot of different therapies for anxiety, and again, like for sleep as well. Seek out a mental health provider, get that information, learn those skills. So yeah, the diagnosis takes the whole family, it can affect the whole family and your friends. Sometimes it pushes people away, sometimes it pulls people together. Make decisions, even small ones. Listen to the advice without feeling obligated to follow it. A support group transforms the fear of the unknown into a realistic plan. Success is scary because it's unknown. But a glimmer of hope really can make a huge difference. Stay engaged what's meaningful to you, your friends, your family, your work, your hobby. The more of these you have, the more resilience you're going to have to the stress that comes along with the illness, and the greater the potential that you're going to survive. Not just survive, but thrive. Be intentional about who you talk to, medication and counseling, and work together and not in competition. You know, there's different terms, you know, there's alternative, there's complementary, there's collaborative. UCSD has the Department of Collaborative Medication. Talk to your doctor about that if you're UCSD. And again, be a caregiver, not a caretaker, or be a care partner, not a caregiver or caretaker. Okay, that's it.
Where do you sing?
San Diego Jewish Men's Choir.
Other questions? No? Thank you, sir.
What's that? Yes. Like I said, I'm available on Headway or through Psychology Today. Okay, that's where I take insurance. I do concierge service, and there's a different fee for that. I find that the people who pay the full fee take what I say a lot more seriously for some reason. I don't know what that is.
Thanks, Albert. Appreciate it. And I wanted to say thank you to Martin, too. I don't know that we gave Martin a round of applause for his.
Thank you, Mike, for doing such a great job on our slides and our presentation.
Oh, you're welcome. So the meeting's over. Now you have to all grab a broom and help clean up. I'm kidding.